Hey, I'm Dr. Hannah, and today I'm going to talk about boundaries and type 1 diabetes. Specifically, how I've learned over the years to create healthy boundaries as it relates to discussing my needs for health decisions or timing with other people in my life. And honestly, I don't think I really understood what boundaries meant from a psychology perspective until the last couple of years. I've learned a lot more about it this year particularly. So this is not something I grew up having figured out already. And I wish I had, because I think that I think that we all learn things in different orders, and I don't think that trying to negotiate with what's already happened, whether or not it was the right order for us, is healthy or creates happiness. But I do think that it would have been helpful had I known this earlier on. And what I mean by boundaries specifically is understanding what our goals are for ourselves, getting clarity on what we're able to do and what we want to do for our healthcare needs, and then being able to talk about that with other people in a way that's kind and loving, but we're also not negotiating our healthcare needs because of wanting to please someone else or because of wanting to not be a burden. And what I found at the root of being able to set healthy boundaries is having self-love. And there are a lot of ways this can look. Feeling deserving to take care of yourself, feeling like taking care of yourself is not going to be a huge burden on other people, understanding that we are deserving of health, that we are deserving of love, that we're deserving of community, and really feeling that for ourselves. And that is a process of getting there. Sometimes it can be tearing down limiting beliefs. Other times it can be just really deciding for ourselves by looking at the evidence that we're all worthy of love and feeling deserving. I believe that about the whole world, and so I'm included in this world, and thus I believe it about myself. That's kind of how I came to that conclusion. But understanding that is at the core, because when we know that I know if I'm going to hang out with my family and my blood sugar is balanced versus if I'm going to hang out with my family and my blood sugar is 250 up arrow, I'm probably not going to show up the same way no matter how hard I try. I know that I get a little bit more edgy and grumpy when my blood sugar is high. That's what I've learned from 18 plus years of living with type 1 diabetes. So I am cognizant of it and I work my best. I'm still responsible for how I show up and how I treat other people when my blood sugar is high. But I know it's harder for me, and it's something I've really had to work on over the years. And so what I've learned is that when I set healthy boundaries and I don't negotiate my needs for my health, I'm really clear on what I want, and I'm able to take action on those things around other people, then I feel better, I show up better, and I often can pour more into other people. I can be a better listener. I can, have fun and laugh more. I can do things that are connecting, or I can even have more energy so that I can help out, longer with the dishes, or, run an extra errand for a family member. There are all these things I can do when I feel better to help support my community and to interact with them. And so asking and being able to be clear on what my needs are when I'm in a community setting is so, so important. So what I've learned recently, and this is a distinction that I think is so helpful, if we are going to set a boundary, it is not necessarily an ultimatum. Not that ultimatums are bad, but it is also not a question. And I think often when we try to set a healthy boundary and we want to come across as nice and congenial as we can, we frame it in a question form. But if it's a question, it's not a boundary. And what has happened to me in the past is if I frame what I think is a boundary as a question, and I have someone in my life who doesn't respond to that question in the way I wanted them to, they say no, or they have a different idea, then over and over that can create resentment. And living with resentment does not feel good at all. So what works better is that you kind of have to frame it as something that is a clarity, a decision on your part. Because when it's framed as a question, it's not really setting a boundary. And I thought for a while if I was asking for my needs, that was enough. even though I could see, if I went to a family member's house over the holidays for a week, I wouldn't do, my pre-bolusing, I wouldn't do my workouts, I wouldn't, do the things that I needed to do for me, get enough sleep, et cetera, and it would add up, and my blood sugars would run in a way that I didn't want them to be, and then I knew kind of it creates a cyclic effect, right? It feels like a big snowball. It gets harder and harder to catch up on those things, and you don't feel good. Not to say that you have to do all those things around your family every time you're home or over the holidays, but I do notice that when I'm alone in my house all day working from home, my blood sugars can be pretty awesome. And what I started realizing was then every time I was in a group, that's when I let them kind of get out of balance. So it wasn't that I didn't know how to manage my blood sugar. It was that I didn't know how to communicate or to interact with other people in a way where I could keep the healthcare habits that I knew worked for me. I think flexibility with type 1 is important. So I'm not saying to not create flexibility in your life, but being able to have a goal or an intention for something that you want to do and then be able to implement it by communicating with people, that's where the gold is. And it feels really empowering when you can figure out how to do it, how to be kind and polite about it, and then how to implement it. So I'm going to provide some examples here. Let's say we are in college, we have a couple of roommates, and we're all sharing a kitchen. And I like to keep my low snacks, my apple juice boxes in the fridge. Now, I might say, hey, we're all sharing food. It's, if you're wanting to drink my juice boxes, if you could please just not take the last one, because I always need to have an emergency low snack in the fridge. That works for my health. And so that's a question, not a boundary. If we say, hey, Michael, when you drink the last juice box, it makes it so I don't have that emergency snack that I might need for my health. So if you can leave one always in the fridge for me, that would be great. If you're not able to do that, then I'm going to start keeping them in my room, and you won't be able to have any of them because that's something that I need to do for my health. So that's a boundary. It's I'd like you to do this, and if not, I'm going to do something else to make it work for the need that I have, which is always having a low juice box available in the house. That's effective, right? Because it remains that I'm in control. If this person can't stop taking the last juice box in the fridge, then I'm going to take an action where I can maintain control over my health and still have the availability to always have a juice box. If I were to say, hey, could you stop doing that? That's not a boundary, that's a request. And so what happens there is they might say, well, I was just really thirsty or whatever. They have their own kind of reasons for needing to take the last one, and that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean they were disrespecting you if you asked a question. And so it's really helpful to always frame boundaries with a contingency of how you will maintain in control of the situation. If it's just a question, it doesn't work the same way. So another example of how to set a boundary is, I always think, is kind of the food timing piece. Hey, Mom, whenever we sit down for the meal, will you tell me about 20 minutes before so I can take my insulin? And if your mom is always forgetting and she's kind of putting these meals together and you're not aware, and everybody's ready to sit down and eat before you are, you might say, Mom, it's really important that I take my insulin 20 minutes before I eat. So if you could let me know, that would be great. And if you're not able to let me know, I just won't be able to sit down and eat, with the rest of the family. I'll sit down, but I'll wait to eat my meal a little bit later. So I'm still in control of my bolus timing. Obviously, that's not something I would want to do, but it's really expressing this is something that's important to me, and I'm going to do it for myself out of self-love and wanting to show up best for everybody. And if you want me to sit down with everybody, this is what I need. And you can do this in a loving and kind way. And I think that my hesitancy with setting boundaries this way was that I was afraid to be rude or pushy or authoritative or controlling or come across in a way that was not serving the other person. And I think anytime we're setting a boundary and we're feeling like a sense of guilt because it's a new process for us, just remind yourself that sense of guilt means that you love the other person. And you can even say that, I'm kind of feeling guilty about saying this, but I really love you and I want to sit down with the group. And so that's why, it's hard for me right now. Now, that being said, that example with my mom was completely hypothetical. I have a great mom and she's supportive, and I haven't had to set boundaries like that in that setting with her. But it does come up. And I think let's see. Another one can be timing. So if let's say we're going on a vacation, and it could be with friends or a group, or we're going, somewhere where there's a lot of people, and that whenever let's say we're camping with the friends, and whenever you are going to be eating like burgers and s'mores, it really helps you if you can get like a 20-minute walk in after one of those bigger, more sugary or processed carb meals. And so you want to do that. You can say, hey, I want to take a group walk after the meal if anybody wants to come with me. And if your friends really want to all sit down and play a board game, you could say, I'm gonna take the walk after the meal. If you guys want to play the game without me, I'll come join you in 20 minutes. So it's not a question, that they could come or not come, and then the whole group goes on the walk or it doesn't, and you then your health is out of control from other people's decisions. You're going to do it anyway. You're going to take care of your own health needs anyway, and you're suggesting other people come with you so that you can start the board game together, versus you can go alone and then join the board game late. Now, I don't think we should always put ourselves in situations where we're having to be socially different than the group, but these just provide examples of how we can do that in a nice way. I don't think that it is disempowering to other people when we set clear boundaries. I actually think it's helpful, because often people in our lives love us. They want to help support our diabetes, and they don't know how to. That's probably become clear to you if you've had type 1 diabetes for a while, is that if you're not kind of living on the inside with it, it's really hard to understand how and when you can help. And so you being very clear about how other people can adjust their habits or timing or decisions to support your health can be a nice thing, because people love to give, they love to support, and that can bring connection. The other thing is that when you are able to set boundaries with someone, it kind of subconsciously gives them permission within the relationship to do the same thing. So if you have a friend that has depression and they, aren't feeling well, and they need to take the day at home to do something, that works better for their mental health that day, they may feel easier or more calm telling you their health boundary. I think that that's a great thing. If we're able to communicate our health boundaries around foods that we do and don't want to eat, like, hey, grandma, I don't want to try your cookies this very moment because I need to wait for my medicine to kick in a little bit more, and then I'll try them in about 30 minutes. That's helpful, because when your grandma finds out she has high cholesterol and she doesn't want to, have some kind of I don't know, really high saturated fat food, she'll know how to communicate that need to you or to other people in her life. And so I think we can set a healthy example. I think that this is something that is empowering to the people that we're communicating with. And it feels really good, because when we know that we can rely on ourselves to take care of our health when we're alone and when we're with other people, it allows us to want to be around other people more, because we feel good. We feel like we can trust ourselves no matter where we go, no matter what we do. And that is the sweet spot of living a happy, healthy life with type 1 diabetes, in my opinion. So I hope this was helpful. The boundaries discussion I am learning more and more about. I would love to continue the conversation in the comments. If you guys have examples, that would be great, not only for my learning, but to share with others. And if you have any questions about this, or it's brought up other ideas that you would like me to discuss, please let me know. I appreciate you for listening to the end. And if you haven't already liked and subscribed, that makes a big difference for me as I'm able to continue putting these out. Thanks so much.